Hello, everyone. I hope you all have been enjoying Speedrun Ragnarok 2021. I am your host, SporadicErractic, and jquestionmark is here with a bonus run for y'all. You want to tell us all about it?
Yeah, so I'm going to sneak in, since we're a little bit ahead on the schedule, a real quick run of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie. And just for fun, I'm going to do it in large mode because it's hilarious. So I'm going to pop real quick into the options and set that up, assuming this is going to actually take the input from my controller. Yes, okay, we're good. Um, Large mode is, oh, I need to restart that real fast because I don't want to go into the menu until I enter in the code. Large mode is great. It uses a sprite test that they did to make sure all their sprites were nice and pretty and looked great. So everything's at double size.
Sounds
So
amazing.
down, left, right, up, down, down. Extra options. Size is large. And we're going to turn it to easy because this game's actually pretty mean. So do you want to give me a quick countdown and we can get rolling?
I would be happy to. Three, two, one, go.
All right, so we're going to skip all the cool cutscenes, which is a shame because they look very pretty on here. And we're also not going to use anyone other than Tommy because Tommy is the best ranger. Um, Not just in general, Tommy is very cool for anyone who's watched the show, but
Shots fired. Shots fired.
Tommy is particularly the best in this game because, so for those folks familiar with fighting games, chip damage is an important fighting game concept where you can deal damage on the opponent blocking. Only White Ranger Tommy has chip damage. No one else can do chip damage with their normal attacks. So Tommy is in a complete league of his own, which is especially important for the speedrun because the AI in this loves to block. So being able to deal damage even on block is very important for going fast. So I guess we should probably talk about the game a little bit. It's on Game Gear, which probably seems like a very ambitious system for a fighting game. But the system has two regular buttons and the start button. The regular buttons 1 and 2 correspond to punches and kicks, and the start button corresponds to pausing the game, so we're not going to press it. Fortunately, we can sneak in a third button by pressing 1 and 2 at the same time, which winds up being sort of a special. Much like many other fighting games, there's a backdash, a forward run, the T Megazord, which is not the Megazord, but is in fact the Thunder Megazord, does the most damage off of a forward run and then 1-2 special. So we're going to see a lot of that, and we're going to see just absolute mountains of Tommy performing his special because it does chip damage. So why would we ever do anything else? The hitbox on it is fantastically huge, but in large mode, because large mode is ridiculous and not really an intended way to play the game, enemies can get close enough to you that they aren't within your hitbox. So I will regularly lose a little bit of time firing off special attacks to the wrong side of enemies. So we've talked about the mechanics a bit. We might as well talk about the actual plot of the game. It's especially worth noting that the game doesn't really follow the plot of the movie. I mean, supposedly that's the whole point of this, but we start the game fighting an enemy that never shows up in the movie, which was that Beamcaster monster that we took on. The game actually grabs a couple enemies from Season 2 of Power Rangers rather than exclusively from the film.
When did the movie come out in like the Power Rangers timeline?
1995. So plot-wise, in Power Rangers, it happens during Season 2 when the Rangers get their new powers. So to talk about the movie, we have to talk about Super Sentai. So Power Rangers is based off of the Super Sentai series. A lot of the action footage comes from Super Sentai, and the movie is where the US group really starts stepping in and trying new stuff. So original Power Rangers is Kyoryu Sentai Zyuranger. The White Ranger is from Gosei Sentai Dai Ranger. So completely different series, which is kind of amazing that he looks like he fits in with the group. And the new Zords that come up in the movie are from Ninja Sentai Kaku Ranger. Oop, almost selected the wrong character. That would have been really horrific. So now we're on to yet another monster who doesn't appear in the film, the Jaws of Destruction. Oh, dang it, we're too far over. So the Jaws of Destruction and Beamcaster are both Gosei Sentai Dai Ranger. By the end of the first season of Power Rangers, they've gone through a lot of the Kyoryu Sentai Zyuranger enemies. So they kept the Power Ranger team and their outfits, because everyone knew and loved them, but moved on to monsters and Zords from the Gosei Sentai Dai Ranger series. It's honestly really cool, I think, that they're kind of making their own thing of it. The movie especially features all the stuff with Ivan Ooze is completely made up for it. The putties that we keep fighting in this, Lord Zed's putties, were made for the US series. They're not based off of any of the Super Sentai properties, so they're their own thing. So we're seeing a mishmash of 3 different series and a bunch of original stuff. It's super cool. So here we are fighting the Jaws of Destruction. Like everything else in this game, it's just a matter of burn it down with Tommy's special as quickly as possible. There's not a whole lot of super deep strategy to this speedrun other than be in the right place and fire off the attacks with the right timing to reduce the odds of them blocking it. So we just got to take out Jaws of Destruction. So you'll notice the format of this game kind of follows the format of the show. We start out, well, small is probably a slight misnomer, but we start out as regular rangers, fighting enemies in cities, towns, etc. And then we go giant-sized in our Zord and fight the giant monsters. So very similar to the format of the show. The Power Rangers game I'll be playing after this sticks pretty closely to that format, but this one, starting with the net, starts really mixing it up. So Ivan Ooze shows up and brings the Ooze Men. So now we got to fight Ooze Men. It's kind of a shame that this is where they start mixing up the formula, because it winds up being 2 stages of just Ooze Men. It's Ooze Men all the way down. It's worth noting, too, it's really interesting that they bring in Beamcaster and Jaws of Destruction, who do not show up in the movie, but the Tenga or Tengu warriors who do show up in the movie will not be making an appearance here. They don't show up. Instead, we get to fight just dozens of Ooze Men.
This feels just like so standard for the way that all of this kind of media was treated. I had no idea that Power Rangers was like the Robotech of Sentai shows.
Oh yeah, it got a fascinating treatment, and to this day, it still borrows from the Super Sentai series. One of the things I find really interesting is a fun little bit of trivia is that one of the choreographers for the fight scenes in Power Rangers went on to actually work for the Super Sentai series. They liked their work so much that they got hired over in Japan by Super Sentai to keep doing what they did, but for the source material, I guess.
That's so cool.
So yeah, we're just fighting Ooze Men. Lots of Ooze Men. We're here in town. Just normal day out. Ooze Men everywhere. Okay, so we finally cleared the first part of the stage and defeated all the Ooze Men. But don't worry, now we come to this area to fight more Ooze Men. It gets better. Their health bars are bigger now. So if you weren't getting enough of the Oozemen, they didn't have enough time on screen. Here we are. It's your chance to see more of them.
Bigger, better, oozier.
Yeah, so the sprites do look ridiculous like this, as big as they are. But I do really want to point out, like, this game is gorgeous. This really takes advantage of how good the Game Gear can look.
For the Game Gear, yeah. This is beautiful. Would this be an okay time for donation?
This would be a great time for donations. We've still got, I think, a couple more Oozemen after this one.
Well, we got an anonymous donation for $5, and they didn't decide to comment. They just decided to be generous. So, big thank you to our anonymous donor for that $5 donation. And a reminder that every single donation enters you to win the prizes that we have, which change daily. Do I have time to talk about prizes right now?
Yeah, please.
All right, so today's prizes, Thursday's prizes, include a Hope Shield from Take This. And this is a small wooden shield. It can be made from a bunch of different types of wood. It can have a different color of inlay. You never know what you're going to get, but Wormwood makes this in conjunction specifically for Take This. So we have one of those available. We also have a limited edition metal Crystal Palace print, a Destiny Blind Box Funko figure, and EV Nano Blocks. And as always, every day, we have you're entered to win the grand prize, which is a Destiny 2 Shadowkeep Collector's Edition that has been autographed by the entire dev team. And it looks amazing. And Moobot has a link there in the chat if you want to take a look at the prizes yourself. You can see them in beautiful full color.
Very cool. So, for those who have seen the film, you may recall Ivan Ooze shows up and defeats Zordon, and the Rangers go on this whole journey to another planet and fight the Tengu warriors and get new Zords. We're not gonna do that. We're just gonna go straight into we have the new Zords and it's time to fight Ivan Ooze's Zords. So we have the Ninja MF Zord, which definitely stands for Ninja Mega Falcon Zord and could not stand for anything else that is inappropriate. I don't know why the abbreviation was done that way, but I do appreciate whoever made the call that instead of like anything else, they went with that one. So good job, team. Ivan fuses with his Zord after we beat it up a bit. I promise there's lore and such. So it is worth noting, in the original movie, the practical effects age beautifully well. If you go back and watch the Power Rangers movie, it looks gorgeous. Except for the CG. The CG is very, very 1995. In fact, on the Power Rangers wiki, there's a lot of really cool trivia and notes on the film. And they have a list of, like little mistakes and errors that were made for continuity and that sort of thing. And one of the mistakes they list is just the CGI. It's bad. It aged very poorly. But here in this game, we get some really beautiful sprites. So, and we are coming up on time. As soon as this fight's over, if Ivan will cut us a little slack. Or not. Ivan. I don't appreciate this. There we are. And that right there, as soon as he hits the ground, is time.
Nicely done.
So quick little run, super fun game. Here's what the sprites are meant to look like in this. But yeah, the game, weirdly enough, doesn't even end with us properly defeating Ivan. We punch him a couple times and then throw him onto a front of a passing comet that carries him away. But we've saved the world and Angel Grove. Don't forget Angel Grove.
I mean, it's fine. He's blasting off again.
So yeah, that is Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie.
GG's, thank you so much for that bonus run. And then next we have the regular Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, right?
Yep, I can switch over to that right now. Right there. So regular Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the extremely made up rainbow percent category is what I typically run of this. So similar to Power Rangers the movie, the game unfortunately has a best ranger. There's at least a couple in this one, but there's a whole bunch of rangers that there's never a good time to use. So we can get started and I can talk about that rainbow category while we go. So if you don't mind giving me another countdown, I am ready to roll.
Absolutely thrilled to. 3, 2, 1, go.
All right. So again, there's some beautiful graphics. We're going to skip through them as fast as possible and get going with the Rangers. So Rainbow Percent was entirely born out of the fact that objectively there are some best Rangers in this. Their DPS is higher, but their moves are just very typical fighting game, and it's not fun to play through the entire game as one ranger over and over and over again. I can give the movie a pass because at least everything is ridiculous and enormous, but who wants to just play through as a single ranger in this? So the rainbow percent requirement is every ranger and every Zord must be used at least once. There are
Nice.
just enough rangers and just enough Zords once you start getting to choose them that you can use one ranger twice and one Zord on stages where you're choosing the Zords twice. It works out really nicely. But yeah, Kimberly's a perfect example, and we use her at an early stage because her DPS is very, very low, and the putties have less health in this starting stage. Oh my, this one's just... There we go. So, yeah, the damage from Kimberly is really low, which is a shame because her moveset looks so cool. She is so much fun to play as, but she just doesn't make any sense for the typical speedrun. So we're using her here early on against King Sphinx. If I recall correctly, the episode with King Sphinx was primarily a Jason Red Ranger focused episode, but we're not going to worry about that. We're just going to beat him up with Kimberly instead. Come on, buddy. So, yeah, same as the last game. Punch with 1, kick with 2, special with 1 and 2 at the same time. We're just going to shoot over his head instead of actually do damage. Specials in these games, I forgot to mention previously, are executed not Street Fighter style, which is weird because the game looks very Street Fighter-y as far as how it plays, but instead Mortal Kombat style. So you press down and then forward instead of doing a quarter circle. It winds up being pretty easy on the input as a result, which is nice for a speedrun because it means I can more reliably execute my specials without making a mistake. But yeah, so the format of this game, similar to the last one, but it extends all the way through this one with the exception of one stage, is you start out as a ranger, you fight some putties. It has a very brawler kind of feel, so you fight some enemies with low health, even though it's done fighting game style. Then usually you fight Goldar, not always. And finally you fight the boss of the stage. So here we are with Trini. Trini also has some problems with low damage, but she has, similar to Kimberly, some of the coolest moves in the game. Her kicking enemies up into the air is just, like, it's slow, but it's deeply satisfying to do. Nasty Night was a Zack-centric episode, but that's cool. Trini's gonna take these putties to town. a lot of this game really comes down to, with all the putties leaping in awkwardly, just remembering where they come from and getting the timing right to knock them out of the air, take them out as quickly as possible. The attacks on the putties, so all of the enemies that we fight in this are playable in versus mode. And the putties are particularly interesting because them and Goldar are so hard to play with. Their attacks are really weird. They move all over the screen. It's really obnoxious to try to play as, but when you're playing against them, they wind up being a real challenge because they just can go all over the place. Shocker, the AI seems to be able to efficiently use the thing that is hard to use as a player. It's almost like it's a fighting game. All right, so we've taken down Nasty Knight. Rita, who will appear on the screen very briefly, makes her monster grow, but we don't have time to listen to that. We gotta take this guy out as quickly as possible. Speedrun.
Gotta go fast.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there is a stun mechanic in this. Enough knockdown hits in a row will stun the enemy, which is great because then I can get off my special attack with impunity. And it does so much damage. It also makes the enemy flash like they're on fire, which is just so cool. Everyone wants to see that. All right, so that is Nasty Knight. I mentioned earlier, all of this stuff is from Kyoryu Sentai Zyuranger. And even the plot of a lot of the original Power Rangers episodes very closely mimics Zyuranger. So the Green Ranger showing up, and at first they're evil, and then they join the good guys. That's all from Zyuranger. The footage of Rita is almost entirely from the original Japanese until way late in Power Rangers. Some of the episodes, they keep the core idea, but they change things pretty significantly. For example, there's an episode where Finster uses a red potion to infect Kimberly and Billy and turn them into punks. And the same sort of thing happens in the Japanese version, the Kyoryu Sentai Zyuranger, where the Pink Ranger and Blue Ranger get turned into punks. In the American version, the Pink Ranger and Blue Ranger wear leather jackets and are generally just jerks. And I think Kimberly almost goes out on a date with Skull. I don't believe anything comes of that, but I could be misremembering. But in the Japanese version, the Pink Ranger and the Blue Ranger don't just become punks. They take it to the Yakuza and interrupt a drug deal with Tommy guns and gun down a bunch of gangsters. So maybe a little bit different flavor than you would get from the typical American version.
That's so good. Yeah, they weren't gonna put that in a kid's show in the 90s.
Yeah,
in America.
It's a very different flavor. Like it's weird. They're so similar but so different at exactly the same time. If you look very carefully while watching the action scenes in the original, oh come on, Goldar, that's not cool. Goldar. If you watch the action scenes where they're the Power Rangers in the original Power Rangers, a lot of their equipment is labeled Zyuranger, because of course it says the name of the show on the stuff that can be sold as merchandise. So for no particular reason, it says Zyuranger on all the Power Rangers stuff. That and a lot of street signs and such tend to be in Japanese in Angel Grove, at least when the Power Rangers are fighting monsters. I don't know. You don't think about it too hard. So Tommy here is being real mean. My goodness. He has an unblockable attack. That attack he does with the Sword of Darkness that comes in on the ground. I can block the start of it if I get lucky and happen to be ready to block it just the right time. But I cannot block the end of it, so I just wind up soaking a hit. Fortunately, this fight is the only one in the game where if you just survive for long enough, Tommy will eventually warp away, but obviously that's slow, so we don't want to do it that way. So we're going to finally use Zac. For the regular run, Zac is my main because he has a wonderful 1-2 kick that we're sadly not going to see for just a minute yet, because we're going to fight the Dragonzord first, which is very cool. But, oh no. Zac does ridiculous amounts of damage, and enemies can stop blocking between the first and second hit. So Zac is such an amazing candidate for the speedrun. It makes it really hard to justify using any other character, which is exactly where Rainbow Percent comes from. We want to see the whole team, all the Zords. There's so much cool stuff. Why miss out on it? Boop. Oh, come on. Boop. There we go. So we've taken out the Dragonzord. This is the one stage that really mixes it up, where we fight large first and then small. But, you know, we gotta beat the Dragonzord to get Tommy out, so we can bring him over to the side of good by destroying the Sword of Darkness. And that Sword of Darkness attack that he does, not only is it incredibly cheap, because you can't block the final hit, but, of course, as is tradition, once he joins the good guys, you can't, as a player, execute the Sword of Darkness. It is a Evil Tommy NPC only move. So,
Well, I mean, it's the Sword of Darkness, right? So
yeah, it's
he's
like,
not on the dark side
sense.
anymore.
It makes sense from a lore standpoint, but it's so cool, and I just want to do that attack, and I never, ever can. So we get some more beautiful scenes. We're not going to watch them. It's time to play. But we've got Tommy. We can use Tommy now, which is super exciting, and we're going to use him right away because he's fun to use against Shell Shock. Or would be if I wasn't just letting myself get hit right.
This enemy is fantastic. I really love it.
Oh yeah, the stoplight turtle. Yeah, Power Rangers enemies are and continue to be up through the modern day absolute nonsense in the best possible way. There is a really good one. I don't remember which Ranger series it's in, but it's based on a keyboard. There's stuff that's just like brick walls. It's
so good.
actually a dude. The
I
next
know
stage
that
after
the Power Rangers comic right now looks amazing. Like whoever is drawing it is doing an incredible job.
Yeah, the Power Rangers comic is glorious. I highly recommend for anyone who hasn't watched the show in a long time. It holds up better than you think. The comic is fantastic, especially the plot line with the other reality where Tommy stays evil and becomes Lord Drakon, and then decides,
Oh,
okay,
no.
well, I'm just gonna invade every reality with Power Rangers and take over. It's real cool stuff. The art's fantastic. The characters are interesting.
Power Rangers Multiverse Dark Tommy AU.
Oh yeah, yeah. I see someone in chat talking about the graphics. The graphics on this game are gorgeous. The Game Gear actually has about twice as many colors available as the Genesis. It can only display so many on screen at a time, but there is a larger color palette than the Sega Genesis available on the Game Gear. It is a wonderful little system that does not get enough love.
Yeah, Game Gear was one of those kind of ahead of its time systems that
Oh yeah.
did not get the love it deserved.
All right. Oh no, not that one. So all right, this has bothered me forever, and I want to take a moment to get on my soapbox here. The Dragonzord fused with the Mammoth, Saber-Toothed Tiger, and Triceratops Zords is called the Dragonzord Fighting Mode. It is not called the Mega Dragonzord, and I don't understand how that decision was made or who made it, but I will be mad at them forever because it doesn't make any sense. Why would you not just call it the Mega Dragonzord? It's a Megazord. It's got the Dragonzord in it. Like this isn't rocket science. It's Ranger science, I guess. But please don't do this to me. Like
Maybe they had to differentiate it from like so many other mega.
yeah, there are a lot of mega things in the course of Power Rangers. It's worth noting Power Rangers, so after the main Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which goes through, Gosei Sentai Dai Ranger, Ninja Sentai Kaku Ranger, we then move into Power Rangers Zeo and Power Rangers Turbo. And as a kid, I had stopped watching before we ever got to any of that stuff. Turbo's pretty weak, but it's still fun. It's worth giving a go. After Turbo, though, is Power Rangers in Space, which I have recently been watching with my daughter. We've been making our way through the entire Power Rangers series, and Power Rangers in Space is incredible. I cannot recommend it highly enough. If you like Star Trek, it's basically tons of Star Trek episode knockoffs. Like, oh no, the holodeck is real and stuff is escaping from it.
Please tell me they did a better job with like Ninja Turtles in space, because
So fun fact, Power Rangers in Space features a crossover with the live action Ninja Turtles The Next Mutation.
oh my gosh.
So there are live action Ninja Turtles teaming up with the Power Rangers. Ninja Turtles The Next Mutation, I don't believe, was super well received, but they team up with the Power Rangers, and that's got to count for something. Okay, Goldar, you are just ruining me.
Would this be an okay time for donation?
Yes, I'm going to focus and try to get this back on track.
Awesome. Well, we received a $20 anonymous donation. Once again, no comment, just a lot of generosity for Take This. So thank you so much, whoever donated that $20.
So Billy, it's worth noting, similar to Kimberly and Trini, has pretty low DPS. I use him against the Pluticorn, even though Pluticorn was a Kimberly and Trini-centric episode, because his attack gives me some real good mobility across the stage, which can be really important against the Pluticorn. This is not going super well, but also they're both blue, and I don't know. I like it. Oh no.
This feels like a Captain Planet kind of enemy, right?
Yeah, so the whole plot of the Pluticorn episode is the local something is polluting, and Trini and Kimberly are protesting it, and it turns out, of course, Rita is behind it and is using the Pluticorn to... Okay, no, that's bad. Okay, thank goodness, that was close.
Good job. Well done.
Oh, all right. So against this one, similar to how we use Billy against Pluticorn, because everything's kind of weird and the Pluticorn's super high mobility, we use Dragon Zord because my drop on it with my butt attack gets a weird amount of priority over the Pluticorn's attacks. So it's my go-to for dealing with this guy. Maybe. Yeah, the monsters in this, I love the creature design for the entire Sentai series. There's no going wrong. Oh, jeez. Dragon Zord also gets a real cool headbutt attack. It's just a wonderful Zord. Pluticorn. So, yeah, there's not a whole lot else to talk to about the lore. The Power Rangers series is still going on. Dino Fury is the current incarnation, and it's cool. It's on Netflix right now. Highly recommend watching it. It's a good time. The characters are fun. The Zords are great. The costumes are gorgeous. Oh, I wonder. I see someone in chat saying that they wonder how many monsters they made throughout all the shows, and that's got to be an enormous number, especially if you pull in other tokusatsu, Japanese superhero shows like Kamen Rider, or as it was briefly known, Masked Rider, when they tried to bring it over here and it did not work at all.
Wait, did they really? Did they use Kamen Rider in Power Rangers, or they just try to bring it over separately?
Both. Similar to how they had a crossover episode with the Ninja Turtles, there is a Power Rangers episode that is a wow, that wrecked me. Really, Ludicorn. There's a Power Rangers episode that's a Kamen Rider crossover, or a Masked Rider crossover. So they tried really hard to push the series, and you'd think it would have worked out for how popular Power Rangers was. You'd think it could have gotten traction. I think there's something about the team dynamic of Power Rangers that really doesn't work with a solo hero like Kamen Rider. And sure, most of the riders wind up teaming up with other riders anyway. But
Kids weren't into that bike, huh? Kamen Rider's cool though.
yeah, Kamen Rider, I honestly think, as much as I love Super Sentai and Power Rangers, I think Kamen Rider gets some even better design work for the monsters and the suits. It's real cool. They don't have Zords, so they can just focus on making everything else really awesome. All right, so yeah, this is a boss rush. People may remember the boss rush episode of Power Rangers that never happened. That's a joke. Or how they all were palette swaps because it's a video game. Also did not happen in the show. But the core idea of this episode, or I guess level, is the Cyclopsis Zord, which is an evil Zord, and gives me a chance to talk about one of the coolest Power Rangers comic, which is Power Rangers Pink, which follows what Kimberly is up to when she heads out and does her own thing. And Zordon winds up using the Sword of Light to power her up, which gets mentioned in the show exactly once, and it's super powerful, and no one ever talks about where it came from or why they don't ever use it again. But Kimberly gets powered up with the Sword of Light. She gets a cool new costume. She gets the ability to power up other people as Rangers with pink highlights on their costumes, and it looks really, really cool. And they make a Zord that is a fusion of some of the other destroyed Zords and Cyclopsis. And that right there is time.
GG.
Thanks. Yeah, so for all the people watching, please go play this game because it's an awesome game. And check out the Power Rangers comics and current shows. It's a lot of fun stuff. Oh, I see someone shouting out Akiba Ranger, which is, yeah, really good. There's just so much good Super Sentai and Tokusatsu stuff out there. You gotta really check out the shows and enjoy yourself. Don't let it being for kids stop you from having a good time with it.
Thank you so much for those amazing runs and the incredible amount of knowledge that you brought. It's really, no, I enjoyed it so much.
I'm glad. I worry sometimes that I ramble on a bit too much about my extremely niche interests, but it's Power Rangers. Everyone loves Power Rangers, right?
No, I love it. I love it. So much Power Rangers lore. I never knew that they mashed up so many shows to make the US Power Rangers, but absolutely makes sense.
So yeah, we're getting to see some of that beautiful sprite work here at the end with the end credits, all that stuff that I mash my way through as quickly as possible. I feel so bad because the cutscenes in this, there's no good reason to watch them, but man, this pixel artwork is absolutely gorgeous. Like, all credit to the team who made this game.
Did you have any shout outs that you wanted to do?
First of all, thank you so much for having me on this marathon. It's real exciting to be here and help be a part of supporting an excellent cause like Take This. I know there's some real cool runs coming up. So for people where it's late at night or early in the morning, please stick around. I think it's a couple runs from now, but DBcade is going to be playing some cool arcade games later that are a ton of fun to watch. But otherwise, I think that's it. Please come play this game. More runs on the leaderboard. More people enjoying Power Rangers. Come talk to me about my ridiculous love for all things Super Sentai.
But yeah, if people want to join the community, how would they do that?
There is a Discord out there. I believe it is linked to off of most of the Power Rangers speedrun.com leaderboards. So shouldn't be too hard to track down. Or just track me down on Twitch or Discord, shoot me a message, and I will help you find it if you want to come play some Power Rangers with other cool people.
Well, awesome. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you.